easier to start learning how to crochet. So I know a lot of you have been wanting a few tutorials, and I'm in the process of making videos at the moment. And I thought, why not just go live and make a little video so that you can have it for the future reference as well. And yeah, so let's try and learn how to crochet. Maybe we should just wait for some watches as well so we can learn how to crochet. Or I'll just go and then you can rewind the video and learn in your own way at your own time. So let's see here. Let us grab some yarn, which I'm going to do right now. I've just got to find a good color. Maybe a nice purple color will do. So here we have purple or lavender colored yarn, and I'm going to show you first and foremost how to hold your hook. So currently I use a 1.75 millimeter hook, but you can use all the way up into, I guess, well, you can use whatever hook size you like. It just has to fit nicely with the yarn that you use. So like, for example, it can go all the way up into even like an 8.5 size millimeter hook as well, or 6.5 here we have. So you can see that this is quite chunky, but I wouldn't use this one for 4-ply cotton yarn. So right now this is the yarn that I have, and it's 4-ply, and you can just see that there are 4 strands that make up this 4-ply cotton yarn here. And I wouldn't use this hook size with that because it would just create so much spacing, you see. So like, even if I tried to do something with this now, with such a massive hook that's just way too big for the yarn, you can see as soon as I start to do some single crochet loops here, or not single crochet, I should say chaining, look how big it is. And this is just not great for when you're trying to make products. You don't want all of this spacing to be here. So I would recommend for 4-ply cotton yarn to use up to a 3 millimeter hook in size. So that's just future reference if you ever want that. Okay, so I currently use a 1.75 millimeter hook, and we're just going to learn how to hold the yarn and the hook. So I'm a right-handed person, which means I crochet with my right hand. So this is my right hand here, and then I hold the yarn with my left hand here. And there are 2 ways for holding the hook as well. Most beginners will begin by holding it this way. So it's kind of like this I don't know, like a scoop technique. I don't know, however, I don't know how you'd refer this to, but this is a way that people sort of crochet. I have not really crocheted this way in my life, so I would recommend, just because when I actually started off like this, and what I noticed was around the wrist here, it kept clicking every time I would go back and forth, and it was just, the noise was kind of irritating. I'm sure it wasn't doing much to help my wrist as well. It's probably doing some long-term damage, I'm not really sure. But I then changed it to this method. So I'm kind of clasping the hook using my 3rd finger, 2nd finger, and then my thumb in the right hand. So this is now how I crochet, and this is kind of the leading finger, so it tells me what I'm doing. It sometimes holds my yarn on this hook as well at the same time. And then these 2 fingers here just hold the hook in place so it's not moving around and it's quite steady. So that's my right hand there with my hook. So if you ever wanted to learn how to hold a hook, this is what I would recommend for you to do. Hold the hook with that 3rd, come underneath, thumb on top, 2nd and 3rd fingers right there. 3rd finger is kind of the leading finger, 2nd and thumb is holding like that. Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was very cheap, but it was cool. And it does look nice. It's sparkly, and I've used it in a lot of my videos. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. I have a ton of tutorial videos on crochet on this channel, so be sure to check them out, and yeah, just have fun with them. I'm starting this beginner crochet series where we're learning how to crochet, all the way from the point of view of a beginner who hasn't ever really touched a hook in their lives but want to learn how to crochet. So I've got some videos, and we're just going through a couple of the basics here now so we can understand it. Kind of. It's more just like some tips here, and I'm going to show you how to hold the hook. Then I'm going to show you how to hold the yarn in my left hand because I'm a right-handed crocheter, so I will hold the yarn in my left hand. Oh, you crochet a lot? Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so we've learned how to hold the hook. Let us now learn how to hold the yarn. And it really depends. So I'm going to show you the main way to hold the yarn. And this is the way that most people, I think, hold the yarn as whilst they're crocheting. It's not the only way, but it's probably the only way that I'm familiar with. So I'm just going to teach you that way. So what I do is I've got the yarn tail end here. And then I'll hold my left hand like this with the palm facing upward. And what I'll do is I'll grab the yarn and it just comes through here. Then it goes around my fourth finger. If you've got a piece of string, try this as well, so you get used to it. So it comes in here, fourth finger around that fourth finger. You can see I've made a loop around that fourth finger. And then I go around the second finger, but not all the way around, just once around. So it's like kind of dangling there. And then my third finger and thumb of my left hand is now going to hold the tip of that yarn right there. So that is the way that I hold my yarn, and you want tension always here and a little bit here as well, making sure this is the most important place where you want the tension coming around this second finger. So sometimes your second finger is quite loose and relaxed, you don't have that tension, but as you pull it up, then you've got that tension there, and you always want that nice, well, not too tight, but enough tightness to be able to continue crocheting as you go along. So let's learn that again. So I wrap it around, all the way around my fourth finger. So I've got the tail end here, all the way around my fourth finger, around the second finger, but not all the way around, just until it's dangling. And then my third finger and thumb will hold the yarn right there. So that is the best way, I think, so far. Well, again, it's the only way I know. So this is the way that I know to hold the yarn in my left hand. And you want that tension. So you can see my fingers kind of stuck up a little bit, and it's always kind of stuck up. And yeah, I can play the guitar if I wanted to. Here, you don't have to have as much tension, but just enough. And you can see my fourth finger kind of closes in there, so it doesn't let this yarn piece go. Okay, so that's how you hold the yarn. I hope that helps. I hope you were able to do it as well if you had a piece of string or something, just to be able to learn that technique. Or you can watch this later, or you can watch some of my other videos in lesson 1, learning how to hold the yarn. It's either lesson 1 or lesson 2, I can't remember now, but you can have a look on the playlist where it just has crochet tutorials for beginners. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Okay, so now that we've learned how to hold the hook in this scooping technique, coming here, first and second fingers right here, third finger leading always. Now we can start crocheting. And I would recommend that when you begin crocheting, you learn how to chain first. It's probably one of the most important things, even before learning how to do the magic ring, just because it's a little bit easier. You've already got the technique here for holding the yarn, so it's probably just the next step up to being able to learn how to crochet. So we're going to do that now. Okay, so this is how you start chaining. The first thing that we need to do when we want to make a chain is to make what is known as a slip knot. A slip knot. Okay, so if you hear someone say a slip knot, this is what they mean when they're talking about crochet. So you might read in a pattern that says make a slip knot, chain 4. Sometimes they don't even include the make a slip knot, and that's because it's kind of intuitive. If you're chaining, you have to make that slip knot first. So this is how we make a slip knot. Enough talking. So here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little circle. So I'm just overlapping that yarn till I've got this cross right here. Do this if you have yarn. And then I'm going to place my thumb right on the center where it overlaps right there. So now I've got a nice circle. So I haven't changed anything in my hand position. All I've done is I've just changed, I've just made a circle here by overlapping the yarn right here. And now the next thing that I want to do is I've learned how to hold my hook, okay? And then I'm going to insert this hook. So don't get too flimsy on this hook. Make sure your hand position is nice and firm and solid there. You're going to insert the hook through the loop, okay? It just enters in nicely there. Don't worry about the size of this loop because we're going to fix that up later. The next thing we're going to do is I'm going to put the yarn over my hook. Do you see how the yarn goes over my hook? And by the way, this is a hook in case you're new here. This whole thing, this thing is called a hook. So when I say yarn over, this is the yarn, this is the hook, and when it's over the hook, it's going to go over the hook. So let's go. Insert the yarn through that circle. The yarn goes over the hook, as you can see here. It's over the hook. See how my hook is faced kind of downward? And can you see how it just clips that yarn there? If it was upward, it doesn't really do it that well. You see that? It just kind of falls right off. But if you face the hook downwards, it grabs the hook just where it needs to be, and now we can pull it through our circle that we just made. Did you see that? I hope that makes sense. If you've got yarn with you, just practice that, making that grabbing the yarn and pulling it through, making sure that hook is facing down as you pull it through. Okay, now from this point, and we can do this again if you need a quick recap, I'm going to let go of my thumb and third fingers here. I'm going to let go, and just notice how I've got my third finger in my right hand holding this loop on the hook. Okay, so it's not going anywhere. I can slide down and up the entire time, which is really nice. So what I'm going to do is let go here, and I'm just going to pull this yarn tail. Pull it until it's nice and tight. Okay, don't be afraid that, oh no, now I've got a knot in my yarn. No, it doesn't matter, because look, if I just take this out, and then if I pull this, boom, it's gone. Okay, so don't worry about pulling it nice and tightly there. So let's do it again. We made a cross. Okay, we're inserting the hook. We're grabbing and putting the yarn over the hook. The hook faces down, and we are going to bring it through our loop. Pull it up. Third finger and thumb moves here and pulls the yarn until we've got a nice amount and tightness here. Okay, so that is how we make the slip knot. So we haven't started chaining just yet, but this is what you need to learn how to do before you start chaining. You need to know how to make the slip knot. So again, if you have yarn or just some piece of string, just practice this over and over, making that slip knot. It's once you get the hang of it, then you will be very happy with yourselves. Okay, next thing we're going to do now is chaining. And chaining is quite simple after you get used to it. So at the beginning, it can be a lot of time and effort involved there to try and get the same tension throughout and the same size in each of your chains as you work your way up and up and up. Some crochet patterns say chain, let's say 4. Some say chain 10, some say chain 20. So, and there's even like if you're making pieces of clothing, you could make up to, I don't know, over 100 chains in your piece. You want to make sure every chain is nice and even. So this is the next best thing to practice. We've made a slip knot, now we're going to chain. Here we go. So the yarn is going over our hook. Can you see the yarn is over the hook? And then we're going to pull the yarn through the loop that was left on our hook and form a new loop on our hook. Now I can pull this like so, or I can then use my finger here to lift up and it pulls back in. Look, I can just measure that, how much of that chain loop I want. If I want the tension nice and even between all of them, I can figure that out as I go along. You can see I've let go of my left hand here, and that's just because I felt I was a little bit far away from my hook here. So I'm just going to hold the yarn and get closer to the hook. And the second thing you'll notice is my third finger and thumb are now holding the bottom. Hello, it's now holding the bottom of that slip knot that we made, and it's always going to hold the bottom. And then as we start chaining more and more, this will go up and up and up, meaning that it comes close to the hook. every time. So let's continue chaining now. How about we try and chain, let's try 10 to begin. So yarn goes over the hook, then the yarn goes through the loop, and we've just made another loop. Change the tension wherever it's meant to be, and let's continue. Hello, welcome, welcome, thanks for coming. And then we're going to pull the yarn through the loop. If you've got yarn and a hook, try this out because it's quite good to practice chaining. Here we go. If you've always wanted to learn how to crochet, join with me. So we're still chaining yarn over hook and pull it through that hoop that's left on the hook. Notice how as I come back here and slide this loop on the hook, my third finger in my right hand comes up and just holds it nice in place, and then my left hand will move up and hold this part in place. So I've always got a handle of my yarn and it's not going anywhere. I'm not over here not knowing what to do. I've always got a nice firm grasp on my yarn. Merry Christmas, everyone. Okay, let's continue chaining a few more so we get used to this. If you've got yarn and crochet hook, join in with me. So yarn over the hook, all the way over the hook, and pull through the loop that's left on the hook. Okay, we've chained 1, 2, 3, 4, we've chained 5. Let's keep going. This is number 6 through the loop. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at that. We have a nice chain right here. Can you see how all of those loops are about the same size? And that's because I've worked this finger here as well as my hook here to give me the size that I want. And as you get faster and faster at this, you'll notice that chaining is a piece of cake and you can get faster and faster at it as well. So look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Look, I did maybe 4 chains very fast and I haven't moved my third finger and thumb at all. But now it's a little bit far away and I can see I don't have very good hold on my yarn. So what I'm going to do, third finger is always holding this top part here, so I'm going to let go and move it up. So I'm closer to my hook as I go along. I hope that makes sense. So chaining, chaining, chaining. Once I feel a little bit far away, I'm going to take a hold of this loop at the top here and move my third finger and thumb in my left hand closer to the hook. So I've just got more of a firm grasp of what I'm doing. Okay, now don't be afraid if you've made a mistake, because it's bound to happen, especially if you are a new crocheter. Even being an advanced crochet, it's easy to make a little mistake with a chain. Like for example, I don't know, it could be something where, I'm trying to think of an example now. Let's say you accidentally split the yarn as you were grabbing it. Let's just say that. And then I pulled it through. Oh no, that looks terrible, doesn't it? So then we'd have to pull our hook out, pull the yarn through until we figure out what chain is the chain we messed up on. Here it is. Now we're all good. I did a little bit more just for example. Then I'll insert my hook back in place. I will put the yarn around my left hand so it's nice and in place again. In case you didn't know how I held the yarn, again, fourth finger around the fourth finger, all the way around. Not this way, okay? Fourth finger has to be the closest to your, let's say, stomach. So we're putting, the yarn comes from inside. It goes all the way around that fourth finger. It comes up around that second finger. And then I'm going to grab with my third finger and thumb. Think of it like a little claw, a crab claw. And it's coming right to the top as close as I can to my hook, so that even if I'm doing nothing with that hook, look, everything is nice firmly in place. Now when I hold the yarn, hold the hook, I've got my second finger and thumb right here. I hold it this way, second finger and thumb here, and then my third finger is going to hold this loop at the top, and look, I can drag this up and down along the hook if I wanted to. Okay, so this is great. We have just learned how to chain, and refer back to this live stream if you want at another time, just to learn that technique of how to chain. We've learned how to, number one, hold the hook. Then we've learned how to hold the yarn in our left hand. Then we've learned how to make that slip knot. and then we've learned how to chain. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do, we can move on from the chaining, is we're going to learn, and this is the next step now. The next step is to learn how to make a magic ring. Okay, so the magic ring is the next most important thing when learning how to crochet. And it's something that you'll have to, almost in every project or any pattern, there will be a magic ring if it's amigurumi or like little toys or things like that that you want to make. It always uses the magic ring. Okay, so the magic ring, once you get a handle of it, you will be using this all the time and it will be easy for you to know as well. So we're going to learn how to do it now. In my left hand, I'm going to use my index finger as a guide. In my right hand, I'm just going to hold the yarn as another guide. And I'm going to have the tail end at the bottom here. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I've got the tail end from the inside and it's going to wrap around my index finger until I form a cross. So you can see that cross right here, making sure that the tail end is the closest to your stomach, okay? So there, we've got a cross now. This is the very beginning part of making a magic ring. You can see my third finger is kind of just holding the yarn in place between my third and fourth finger. And that's just to give it enough tension to hold. Nothing's going to move out of place. My thumb's holding this part here, okay, where the tail is. And my third and fourth fingers kind of over here holding the yarn over there. Don't worry too much if you can't get this straight away. I mean, it's just learning how to hold the position so that the yarn is not floating away. So remember, the tail's on the inside. You're going all the way around, making that cross. You can see my third and fourth finger comes here to grab the yarn, okay? And now I can see this nice cross. And this is the cross that we want in order to start our magic ring. Next, we've got our hook. Okay, and we're holding that hook the same way. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert my hook underneath this first strand, making sure I'm underneath the entire strand. Okay, you can see I'm underneath here. I haven't moved the position of where I'm holding. I'm just moving this back and forth so you can see that I'm underneath that first strand of that cross. The next thing that we're going to do is have our hook facing down. You can see it's ready to grasp that yarn. Can you see that? If I have my hook up, nothing's going to happen. It's just going to slide back in and out. So I have the hook down, pull that yarn underneath. Okay, let's do that again because I feel like I've just got a misplaced strand there. And I think that's the one thing you have to be aware of is making sure you get underneath all of that strand, okay? Not missing anything. And now I'm going to have the hook facing down. I'm going to grab the second strand and pull it through the first strand. Notice how I haven't really moved my third and fourth fingers here and my thumb here. It's all staying the same. Okay, then I've got this kind of semi-loop on my hook. It looks a little twisted, right? You can see right there, it looks a little twisted, but that's okay because what I'm going to do, and this is another important part, so we've got a loop on the hook, but now I've got to put this strand through the loop on the hook. So grabbing the yarn, and the yarn goes over the hook. Yarn is over the hook, and now I'm pulling, pull the strand. Okay, now we just need to make sure that that loop is big enough to be able to get that. Pull the strand of yarn through the loop. Now my third finger here is going to grab this right here, so it's not going to go anywhere. Then I'm going to release my index finger down here, but I'm not moving the way that this yarn tail is sitting right now. You can see it's sitting nice and neatly there. And look, we have just made a magic ring. So if you practice that over and over and over again, you're going to get the hang of making a magic ring. And then, I don't know, the pattern may say things like work 6 single crochet stitches into a magic ring. It could say work 1/2 double crochet stitch in a magic ring. And I'm not going to do all of that for you. I'll just show you how to make maybe 1 or 2 single crochet stitches inside this magic ring. Okay, so we're going to see this now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this magic ring. Okay, I'm going to hold it with my third finger and my thumb in my left hand. And I've got my hook here. I'm holding the loop on the hook with my third finger. Everything is nice and even. The way I'm holding the yarn in my left hand is the way that we have learned at the beginning of this live stream. So here we go. We are ready to work some stitches inside this magic ring. So when it says inside the magic ring, that means the hook is going inside the magic ring. Do you see that? And then I'm going to grab the yarn and pull it through that magic ring. Now my third finger comes back to hold these two loops on the hook. I'm readjusting my position here so that the yarn is nicely held. And I'm going to then pull the yarn through those two loops. So we're going a little bit ahead at the moment, but I'm kind of just showing you how to work a stitch in a magic ring. Later we're going to learn a little bit more about this single crochet stitch that we are working on right now. So you can see I'm just working. Now this is my third single crochet stitch inside this magic ring. Let's do up to 6. This is my fourth one inside this magic ring. Always the tension is nice and even. This is the 5th one that I've worked in my magic ring, and this is number 6. So we'll just have 6 for now. Okay, after I've just made 6, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to close this magic ring. So right now we have an open magic ring right here. Hello, welcome. What we want to do is we are going to pull this yarn tail here to close this magic ring. You see, it will be nice and easy to pull. You can see, watch, as I pull it just a little bit, this ring is starting to close. You can pull it all the way. Give it a little bit of a pull. Especially with cotton yarn, you don't have to be too gentle. I mean, you don't want to go too rough as well because you don't want to break the yarn. But just enough. Feel the tension as you work with it. And can you see now we have closed the magic ring? No problem. I hope you're enjoying it. Okay, so since we've closed this magic ring now, we technically would call this the first round. Can you see how we're working in a round, meaning we're going in a sort of spiral circle direction from right to left, right? So this is why when we have finished this first round and there's no more stitches to make inside that magic ring, that is called the first round. It can also be abbreviated to R1. Okay, hello. So if you're reading a crochet pattern, it says round 1, work 6 single crochets in a magic ring. We would have just completed that right here. Hey, we're just doing a quick tutorial and some crochet techniques, single crochet, holding the hook, slip knots, chaining, things like that. Okay, the next thing that we want to do is, depending on the pattern, let's say now it says round 2, okay, and it may say, since we've got 6 single crochets in a magic ring here, the second round, or round 2, R2, may say increase times 6. Okay, increase is also abbreviated to I and C, increase times 6. So you might see something on your crochet pattern that says I and C with an asterisk, that means times, and then 6. Okay, so we're going to learn how to do that now. We're going to learn what an increase is. We're going to learn if we are crocheting in the spiral or if we are crocheting each round and finishing each round with a slip stitch and chain 1. So I'm going to show you 2 ways right now. I'll start off with the basic way here. We're going to learn how to do a slip stitch and chain 1 to finish the round. So this is our first round and we're going to finish with a slip stitch and chain 1. Okay, so let's learn how to do that now. So I'm going into this very first stitch that we made in our magic ring. Okay, see how my hook is now going through the front and back loops of that very first stitch, because each single crochet stitch has a front and back loop, as you can see here. Okay, so when you're working in the second round, you want to make sure your hook goes through both the front loop and the back loop. Unless the pattern says front loop only. In that case, you'd only go in the front loop. If it said back loop only, then you'd only put your crochet hook in the back loop, and we could do some of these as well. So let's learn how to finish this slip stitch and chain one. Okay, so we've just inserted our hook into the first single crochet stitch of that first round. We're going to grab the yarn, and to make a slip stitch, so S-L-I-P stitch, we're not putting the yarn through these two loops. What I'm going to do is put this second loop that we made into the first loop. So that is a slip stitch. And sometimes if you're doing little amigurumi products, I'd want to have an example here, but I can't find anything that's close to me in reference range. Maybe, oh dear, no, I don't really have anything that I can show you. Here, look, with Hermione, we probably can't see it, but I've worked a slip stitch into the head only. So the head has some slip stitches after each round. And to finish that slip stitch, you finished it, but now you're going to chain one to prepare for the second round. Okay, so this is what is called finishing the round with the slip stitch and chain one. Okay, so now we're going to learn the increase. What does it mean? Increase times 6. And increase is just a fancy way and a more abbreviated or short form way of saying 2 single crochet stitches in one stitch. Let's say that again, 2 single crochet stitches in one stitch. Okay, so we have put our hook inside the first stitch. Can you see that? We've got it in the first stitch, the front and back loops, and we're working an increase here. So the increase is going to be 2 single crochet stitches in one stitch. See how my hook went right back into that same stitch, and I'm working my second single crochet. So now we have 2 single crochet stitches in one stitch. But now it said times 6, right? Increase times 6. I wish I had a pen and a paper, or maybe I'll do this another time. I don't have a pen and paper right now, but just to write what it could be, what it looks like in a pattern. Here I'm going in my second stitch right now. I'm pulling the yarn through. I'm making a single crochet stitch, but it said increase, so I need the second single crochet stitch, and I'm going to pull the yarn through. Now I have worked 2 increases, but I have another 4 to go because the pattern said 6, right? Increase times 6. So here I'm making my third. So this is 2 single crochet stitches, or increase as its short form. I've already done it. So you can see now I've got 3 increases. 1, 2, 3. Let's do number 4. Here's 1. I haven't done an increase, I've just done a single crochet in that stitch, but if I do a second single crochet in that stitch, it is now an increase. Here's number 5. Let's do an increase in stitch number 5. There's first single crochet stitch. Here's second single crochet stitch. And number 6 stitch is first single crochet stitch. Go back in that stitch. And second single crochet stitch. Okay, now we have completed our 6 increases. Okay, so now we have a total of 12, because 6 times 2 is 12. 12 single crochet stitches in the second round. So you might see it written as brackets, and inside those brackets it says 12 on a crochet pattern. Now I can continue to finish the rounds with a slip stitch and chain 1, unless my pattern says crochet in a spiral. Crochet in a spiral. And this is where some people use a stitch marker. So stitch markers can come in all sorts of forms. I've just got your basic ones, like here's a stitch marker right here. I really don't like using this, but if you are a beginner crocheter, they are more than helpful to use. You can use other things as well, which we'll see. But what we could do, we will only use this when we're working that very first stitch of the next round, because we're just crocheting in a spiral, right? So crocheting in a spiral means we're up to round 3 now, and as soon as I do that first single crochet stitch of my round 3, there it is, that stitch right there is my first stitch of my 3rd round. So what I would do is insert that stitch marker in that very first stitch, and then I'd close it up and it would be just like that. And then you'd have to undo it as you get to the next round and undo it again and close it up for the next first stitch of the next round so that you never get lost. Or another way of using a stitch marker, here we haven't done our first stitch now, I've just pulled it apart. But look, I can just grab a piece of yarn like this. What I can do is put it right here. And I'll just insert my hook right here, back in that loop where I let go previously. Then I'm going to grab my yarn. Let's just make this workable. I'm going to grab the yarn, and then I'm going to go into my very first stitch of that previous round and make a single crochet stitch like that. There we go, we've got our very own stitch marker with just a piece of yarn that tells us that that was the very first stitch of the round. So that's just another way that you can do that. Okay, now for the final thing that we're going to do before I finish this first live tutorial is learning how to make single crochet stitches in different ways. So I'm just going to leave this off to the side here, and I'm going to use this right here. So this is something that is showing me different ways of doing a single crochet stitch. Okay, and later on we can do color changes and things like that, and I'll have more tutorial videos coming out that will show you how to do all of this as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can see those tutorial videos and follow along, and then start my tutorials on actual amigurumi things and all of that kind of stuff. So you can see I have 3 different colors. You've got yellow, we have orange, and we have red. And this represents different ways of doing my single crochet stitch. Okay, so we're going to start off with how everybody learns how to crochet in the very beginning. Well, usually. I don't want to just say that straight away because I don't want to get that wrong. But most often, or more often than not, this is how you will begin learning how to crochet. So not here, don't watch me here, I'm just cleaning this up and using a color. Actually, I don't want to use yellow. Let's use orange, because orange represents the beginner stage. Not that the other ways are not beginner stages or vice versa, but we just want to start out in the regular way that most people learn to stitch. So I've just finished the round with a slip stitch and chain 1. And what we're going to do right now is a single crochet stitch, but I want you to watch very closely on how my yarn either goes over or under. So when I say under, I mean the yarn's coming under like that, or over, under, over, or under, because this is going to help us understand the type of single crochet stitches and how they come out in the end. Okay, so we put our hook through that very first stitch. Can you see that the yarn is going, let's see, the yarn is going over the hook, and then I'm bringing it through, and then the yarn goes over the hook again, and then it's put through these 2 loops. Did you see that? So we had yarn over, 2 yarn overs. Let's do it again. Hook goes through, the yarn goes over the hook, it's brought through the stitch, the yarn goes over the hook, and it's brought through the 2 loops on my hook. We did yarn over again. Let's do it again. yarn over the hook, yarn over the hook again, and again, yarn over, again, yarn over, yarn over. Can you see how we're kind of making a V shape? Can you see that V? When I say V, let me just point it out. V, 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 V. Right, yes, spam yes in the chat if you can see that V. Yarn over, yarn over. Yarn over, yarn over. Perfect. Thank you. Yarn over, yarn over. Look at how we're doing this. Thank you guys for saying yes. It helps me to know that you're actually watching. I'm being useful. Okay, so we see that V. So that's yarn over technique. Okay, and that's how most people begin learning how to crochet. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, and this is probably the most original method of crocheting. All that I would say is that when you're doing this with amigurumi pieces, like you're making a doll or something like that, you have to expect that, or, well, I mean, you don't have to expect it if you're quite experienced, but maybe as you're starting out, maybe the stitch spacing between each stitch is a little bit much. And so when you start stuffing your product with fiber filling, you might see it gets quite holy. And I don't mean saying I just mean there's big spacings between the stitches. So that's the only I don't even want to say it's a downside, because some people can get this technique really nicely and there's enough tension through the yarn that they just won't see that spacing. It's just a subjective preference, I think. It just depends what you like to do. Now we've learned. So remember, this is yarn over, yarn over. And in crochet patterns, they're not going to tell you what way to crochet. They're just going to tell you it's 6 single crochet stitches or 12 increase. They're not going to tell you if you go yarn under, yarn over, or yarn under, or yarn over, yarn under, or things like that. They're not going to tell you that. That's up to you to figure out by yourself. I'm just showing you the 3 different ways that are most commonly used to crochet. Okay, so we just did the yarn over, and we get that V shape in our product. Okay, the next one we're going to do, and let's change our yarn color. And we'll change it to yellow. We'll change it to yellow because I'll show you the next technique in yellow. So before I change the color, I'm going to go into my yellow. Let's come here, yellow. And I'm just gonna pull, where we are, there we are. I'm gonna pull the yellow through. I'm just gonna pull that orange down a little bit because we made it quite spacious there with its long strand. Okay, we are ready to start crocheting our second way of doing single crochet. Okay, let's do it. Hook goes through the next stitch, okay? And look, the yarn is underneath my hook. Do you see that? The yarn is underneath. So it's not over anymore. It is underneath the hook. Hello, everyone. Nice to have you in here. So I'm going to pull the yarn through here. And then I'm going to have the yarn over my hook and pull it through those 2 loops. So what did we just do? We did yarn under first, and then we did yarn over. So let's do it again so we get used to this technique. Yarn under, yarn over. Did you see that? Let's do it again. Yarn under, yarn over. Again. Yarn under, yarn over. Yarn under, yarn over. One more time. Yarn goes underneath the hook. Now the yarn goes over the hook. Okay, let's see what we have here. It doesn't quite look like these V's over here, right? What have we got? we've kind of got more of this, let's see, don't even know how to describe this. Some people describe it as like a half X look. So you've got this diagonal that comes down here, and then you've got this slight strand that goes up. So it's kind of like, let's try and draw it with a crochet hook. Kind of looks like that. Let's mark it off there. And that's what it looks like. It's like a half X. Okay, so tell me if you can see that there. Can you see that? The diagonal. And then you've got a little diagonal at the top there. If you can see that, spam yes in the chat. So it doesn't look like the V, like our first technique. It looks like this. Spam yes if you can see it. Please spam yes. If you can't, let me know as well. Do you see it, guys? Perfect. Yeah, actually that's a really good way of putting it. A little serrated knife, that is great. Okay, so remember, thank you for the yeses in the chat. I really appreciate that. So remember that this technique is, what was it? Yarn under and then yarn over. Yarn under / yarn over, or YU / YO. Okay, so I want to say that this is the way that I crochet. I always do yarn under, yarn over. And when I began like this, yarn over, yarn over. But then I found, for me, I didn't really like the look of my amigurumi pieces. So I changed to this way, and the stitches were way more tightly packed. To me, it looked neater. Not that there is a neat way, again, it's subjective, but to me, I just liked the style a lot better. So that's why I've always kept to this technique. But if I really wanted to, I'd really want to upgrade too. And again, I shouldn't use the word upgrade because it's subjective. There's no right or wrong way here. But for me, this is like the best look where I've seen people use this technique. I'm like, oh wow, their stuff looks really nice. And just the style of the stitches looks really, really cool. So what I'm going to do right here is the final way of learning how to do a single crochet stitch. And this is where we will do yarn under / yarn under. So 2 yarn unders. So first we did 2 yarn overs, then we did a yarn over, and now we're going to do yarn under / yarn under. So let's do that now. All right, single crochet stitch coming up. Yarn under. See how the yarn goes under. And now I'm going to do yarn under again. Under as I bring it through, and you can see it's a little bit tight because I am not in practice with this because I haven't used this stitch. Let's do a few more of them though, so we can get used to it, used to this style. Yarn under, yarn under. Let's do it again. Yarn under, yarn under, yarn under, yarn under, again, yarn under, and yarn under. A few more and then we'll take a look at what they look like. Yarn under, yarn under. I feel like I've got something misplaced there. Can you see that? Can you see that, everyone? There's just a little loop over here that I've probably forgot to have on my yarn, on my hook at the time. So what you would do if you notice that in your piece, before it gets too late and you're up here and you notice this and you're like, oh no, because you can't really hide this, and then you've got to unstrand everything just to get to this stitch. What I would suggest to do is pull all of this back and get and fix that stitch before you move on. But for the purposes of this tutorial, we're just going to continue here. Yarn under, yarn under. Last one, yarn under and yarn under. Okay, now let's have a look at these stitches. Try and make it so it's not blurry. Okay, can you notice anything about them? What does it look like this time? We've got more of that X, huh? So it kind of looks like, let's have a look. kind of looks like this if I do it with my hooks. You got one underneath and one over, but you've definitely got that clear X. If you say square, yeah, it kind of looks like square as well, because two of those diagonals, they make it look like that square shape. That's so true. And it just, to me, it looks really nice, especially if you've got a doll. I don't have any reference images here, but you know, a doll's head or hands or something, you've got these nice and even stitches with the square shape all the way around. It looks nice, to me, anyways. Okay, but have you seen how we've done, let's see it all again, the V shape, yarn over, yarn over. The half X shape, or the serrated knife shape, we have yarn under, yarn over. And then we have the X or square shape, which was yarn under, yarn under. So those are the ways that we can do our single crochet stitch. Okay, so make sure you know what works best for you. A crochet pattern is not going to tell you what way. Okay, but once you've learned all three ways, or if you start with this way, continue with that way. But later on, if you see, oh, why does their one look, you know, different? And this would be the reason why. They're using a different technique when they're doing those single crochet stitches. And then you may even go up further. Why does it look really different? Well, because they're using this square shape technique. You like the yarn under the most? Yeah, I would have to agree. For myself, I kind of like it too. It's one of my favorite ones. I might have to start switching up my style. But I really hope that helps, because this is some really core fundamentals to learning how to crochet. And once you've got these techniques down pat, oh my gosh, the world is your oyster. You've got so many things to crochet. You'll be a whiz at crocheting as well, honestly. You'll be able to read patterns. You'll be able to, you know, do all sorts of things. So I recommend, as much as possible, if you've always wanted to do crochet and you don't have your crochet stuff to begin with, look, go out, buy a quick crochet set. Look, I have no fancy tools. I've been using this for ages. Look, this is kind of what I've just been using for a very long time. And you know what? It does fine. You don't have to get the best of the best. Any hook will do absolutely. The only thing that I would say is, if your hand starts to get a little bit achy, of course there are what they call ergonomic hooks, which are supposed to be nicer for hand placements and things like that. Again, if you prefer those, then sure, you spend a little bit of more money to get that. But for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other people, especially if you're young and you've got agility in your wrists and things like that, just the basic ones is all you need. You don't need anything expensive to begin your crochet journey. All right. So the last thing, well, maybe in a different video. Oh, it's so hard because, like, I know we've started right now, and I kind of want to go on to do half double crochet and then double crochet and treble crochet and all these types of things. But we have been through quite a bit, so maybe I'll leave that for a following video. And I will also have tutorial videos, unless you really, really want to learn. I mean, you'd have to spam in the chat to let me know. Otherwise, if that's enough for today, then that's probably enough. In any case, I will have tutorial videos out and available showing you some of these techniques. Then continuing on in our crochet journey, we're going to learn all of the different stitches. Probably not all of them, but as much as possible. Oh, you want more? And then once you've learned all those things, you'll be able to watch any YouTube tutorial that shows you how to crochet and just follow along with them. You'll also be able to read any pattern. And you know what? Maybe in the next one, I am going to show people how to read a crochet pattern. And maybe write it out as I go along. I could even show you, like, if I'm starting to design something, how do I go about and write my own patterns? That's another thing that we can learn how to do as well. Quality of yarn, it's a bit of trial and error, I would say. So right now, I just use a simple 4-ply cotton yarn. So it's I would say the quality is just right. It's not too expensive. It's not super cheap as well. But it's 4-ply because there are 4 strands in it. And this is the perfect way to start your amigurumi journey. And again, amigurumi is just a fancy word for making products like this. Here's a little duck. So this would be amigurumi. Okay, so things like this. I would just recommend 4-ply cotton yarn. I probably wouldn't recommend acrylic yarn for amigurumi just because it looks, acrylic yarn is a little bit more coarse and it doesn't have this soft overall look to it. So yeah, if you're making amigurumi and you're starting out, just grab some 4-ply cotton yarn and that will be more than enough for you. I actually for myself I really want to start making bigger products because I know people really get into the big products just because they're bigger, I think. And sometimes, you know, they're the plushy sort of look. They're a lot softer feel. And for things like that, it would be like the loops and threads type yarn, chunky yarn, or the what's the other one? Chenille yarn or something like that, which I've never actually gone out and bought for myself, but I really want to look into it because yeah, it might do a lot better than what I've been doing so far. So, so yeah, I mean, it just depends what types of things you wanted to make. If you're wanting to make really big things, then obviously you're going to be using larger hooks, but you also need thicker yarn to be able to do that. So like, for example, here's a 6mm hook right here. You can see the hook is quite thick, right? It's big. And I wouldn't be using this hook on such a small yarn size like this because it wouldn't work at all. How about sturdier yarn for like a bag or something like a heavy laptop? Oh, I'd have to do a little bit of research on that one. But yeah, for like a bag or a laptop, you definitely wouldn't be using this yarn. You wouldn't be using that chunky yarn either. But I don't know what the yarn would be called. I'd have to do some research on it. A quick Google search might help as well. But if I find the answer to that, I'll let you know as well. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed the live. I hope this has been, I feel like it's been like a good lesson for you all on your crochet journeys, and I'm so grateful that you're all here watching. And hey guys, if you haven't already, I would love it if you could please subscribe to me. And yeah, I'm trying to get 10K by the end of the year, so if you can, please do so. Follow my videos. I'm coming out with more educational videos as we go along, more tutorials. I'll do more lives and all of this type of stuff. But I hope this all helps, and I'm so grateful to all of you. So thank you so much. Thanks guys. I really appreciate it. All right, have a great rest of the day or sleep, whatever time it is for you. Enjoy your days or nights or your next days, whatever they may be. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.